Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Welcome to our guests. And for our guests, I am Rabbi Micah Miller, and my family, my wife, April, and my daughter, Aria, we just moved here. And there are so many exciting things about moving to a new town, and especially for me, moving to a new town that has St. Louis as a pit stop along my journey from Minnesota, as that's my hometown. And April and I were very appreciative to the congregation because we were able to use the bayit, or the house that's right beyond the parking lot, for this coming year. We were also really excited about this because the space was just so much bigger than any of the apartments we had shared together over the years. With having so much space, I started to imagine all the things that we could now put in the house. I will be honest, I was starting to get a little overboard with my virtual window shopping, and my Amazon cart continued to amass a new thing each and every day. One day, the cart was filled with upwards of 50 potential items of all varying sizes. And as I was looking at my cart, I paused, because I was reminded of another time that I had fallen into the same sort of trap. A few years ago, I was in Los Angeles to visit a friend. My friend now does not live in LA proper, but as I was driving the hour-long distance from LAX to his home, I was wondering what new thing he would have to show me. You see, this friend of mine is rather into tech and gadgets, and he usually finds some new TV or something controlled through an app or other gadget for his home quite often. And I wondered what it would be, and he did not disappoint. As I went into his living room, I could not notice what the prized possession would be. But then underneath the TV, I saw this sleek-looking little audio soundbar. After the regular pleasantries and catching up, we sat down and he showed me his new toy. He proceeded to tell me about this new Atmos soundbar. Without going into too much detail, the nuts and bolts of it, the sound allows for individual sounds in a movie to sort of travel across the speakers as they are reflected on the screen. So if there's a plane flying across the screen from one end to the other, that engine sounds would move across your sound system that way as well, really providing you with this enhanced and heightened audio experience. After listening to the quality, I came home from my trip and remember saying to April, "We got to get one of those." I proceeded to do my normal Amazon, Best Buy, and Target comparisons just to see what this potentially would set me back. But in the end, the number didn't really matter because I had already mentally determined, I want this. I am getting this. It might not be the best on the market, but I'm going to get it. It even felt like at a certain point of going down the rabbit hole of research and analysis of brands, that it was no longer a desire of luxury, but was creeping into the necessity category. It was something that I needed to have, and it was the same thing I was doing once we moved here, needing to get new things for the house. It looked like we might end up getting that new sound system, but then something unexpected happened. One morning out of nowhere, April and I are getting breakfast ready for our daughter Aria before school, and then we hear, "Mama, Baba, the TV isn't working." Now, I was surprised by her claim because I could still hear the news coming from around the corner. I then walked in and I noticed our screen was flashing. And in that moment, all I could think about was, but what about my speakers? This incident with my TV taught me a great lesson, a lesson that is touched upon in this week's Parsha. This week's Parsha talks about a lot of different important aspects of Israelite life. This portion talks about the appointment of the judges, prohibitions against idolatry and sorcery, a repetition of the outline for cities of refuge for accidental murder, and the outlining the proper laws of war. Additionally, we have a discussion concerning the laws governing the appointment and proper behavior of a king. Verse 14 of chapter 17 states, "Ki tavo el ha'aretz asher Adonai Elohecha noten lach, v'yireshta v'yishabta ba, v'amarta asima alai, melech v'kol hagoyim asher si vivotai." If after you have entered the land that the Lord your God has assigned to you, and taken possession of it and settled in it, you decide, "I will set a king over me, as do all the nations about me. You shall be free to set a king over yourself, one chosen by the Lord your God. And be sure to set a king over yourself, one of your own people. You must not set a foreigner over you, one who is not your kinsman. It seems to me that while God is okaying this action of the Israelites assigning a king, there does seem to be a sort of hesitation. And if we continue to read this parsha, it becomes more evident as to what God's concern is, almost the hubris of the king. I think that each of us here probably has a certain view of what a king is, a person with endless riches, power, and say. And it seems the ancient biblical author, too, has the same connotation of a monarch. And this is highlighted by the limitations laid out by God in the text proper. Verses 16 and 17 of the Torah continue. Moreover, he shall not keep many horses or send people back to Egypt to add to his horses, since the Lord has warned you. And he shall not have many wives, lest his heart go astray, nor shall he amass silver and gold to excess. From this excerpt, it is clear that the Torah is concerned with how a human with free will and desire might choose to act should they be allowed to have limitless power, and might lead them down a path of wanting to amass in all different aspects, whether that be land, to wives, or riches. Feeling as if you need to have everything to highlight your control or power over others. The Babylonian Talmud in Masechet Sanhedrin mentions it's not that a king should not or cannot have some of these things, but rather, and I quote, he should have enough horses for his chariots and enough gold and silver for his troops. The rabbis say having nice things are fine, but we must keep it all in perspective. In looking at the text, I can see myself, not that I am a king by any means, rather, I see the lesson that the Torah and the rabbis are teaching, and I'm realizing I need to learn that lesson again. Whether it be the speaker that I wanted several years ago, or maybe still kind of secretly want, or all of the other things that were in my Amazon cart. I got to the point that I wanted them so much, it started to consume me. I wanted more, felt a need for more materials. Yet, our tradition tells us no. No, you cannot have that sort of mindset when looking at the world. For as the book of Ecclesiastes highlights, those are things that we do not bring with us. They do not have eternal value. They are not the end-all, be-all. Our Torah text then goes on to tell us what our leader and ruler should be consumed with instead of material gain. Verses 18 through 20 say, when he is seated on his royal throne, he shall have a copy of this teaching written for him on a scroll by the priest. Let it remain with him, and let him read it all of his life, so that he may learn to revere the Lord his God, to observe faithfully every word of this teaching, as well as these laws. Thus, he will not act haughtily towards his fellows, or deviate from the instruction to the right or to the left. It is not meant that our king should sit on a throne and count his silver, or swim in a pool of gold coins a la the Disney character Scrooge McDuck. Sorry for our guests if that's a little over your head for our younger members. Rather, they are to sit there with this teaching and the laws, the things that are meant to tell our leader what they should focus on and how it is that they are supposed to be in this world. Not only for themselves, but the king should serve as an exemplar in how his people should act. And therefore, the message is meant for us to follow and observe as well. I often mention in my classes and sermons that the Torah post-Exodus is trying to provide the Israelites with a sort of blueprint or guide of how to create a country, a civilization, and a society. If we were to endorse the monarch being solely focused on their own material wealth and self-centeredness, this leads to the people seeing that as the way to act, and then we create a selfish culture. However, the Torah comes to say, hold on to what is important, these values, these laws, and these teachings that I give to you to see what matters in our lives. Now I'm going to take us back to that story about my TV. My TV breaking was my reminder on what needs to be the focus of my life. You see, after the TV broke, we were TV-less for several weeks, and that time allowed me to realize just how ridiculous and wrapped up I had gotten about my new potential soundbar, the new toy that I had wanted. When the TV broke, it made me realize I needed to focus more on fun and creative play with Arya, with teaching her new insights on how we act in this world. Because I had come to realize she too was, and maybe still a little bit, is obsessed with getting all of the various things that she sees on YouTube, like her LOL dolls, her Barbies, and other things. I need to not be a bad example, and my Amazon cart was actually a sign that I was slipping. I need to be acting in a way that says the things are not the most important things. Rather, the most important things are the moments with loved ones. It's the values that I emulate for my daughter. It is the teachings of what is most important in life. The two examples from my life I shared with you today made me realize how I needed to put more focus on the truly meaningful things in this world. It is fitting that this is mention of limitations on our own personal greed is mentioned in a parsha that talks about the shunning of idolatrous actions. It seems so apropos because the idolatry that we now lift up in the modern age are the things, the materials, the newest gadgets, or in my case, the Atmos soundbar. The reality is, I had turned that into an idol, as so many people do this day with material possessions. So what we need to do on this Shabbat today is to stop. Today we don't need to think about the things we want, but we need to think about the things that we are grateful to have. We need to count our blessings. We need to cleave to our values and to stop and think about what really matters in this world. It is not about the new toy, but rather it is about the values that we cherish and live each and every day. Those are our greatest possessions. And passing them down to future generations is the gift we need to give them for the betterment of Hashem's world. Shabbat Shalom.